Hey, it's Dr. Dunaway again here with Chiro Strength, and today's video we're going to be talking about hip internal rotation and restoring blocked internal rotation. We're not going to get too much into why that's important, but let's just say without hip internal rotation, your gait's going to be messed up, your knees are going to suffer, ankles are going to suffer, and hips and low back are going to suffer. So internal rotation is really important to restore. We're going to give you 2 drills on your back with legs against the wall, and then we're going to get you up off the ground and start integrating the internal rotation into more movement patterns. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay on our back with our feet against the wall. Now with our feet against the wall like this, my butt's probably about a foot away right now. And what I'm going to do is slowly go external rotation and then slowly come into internal rotation. I got a little dorsiflexion in my ankles here, so I'm not like this. And I'm just going to work pausing and holding each time. As our hamstrings loosen up, I'll scoot a little closer to where now my butt is on the wall, and now I get a little more of a hamstring stretch as I work through internal external rotation. And I'll kind of pull in, hold for an entire breath hold, or not hold, but entire breath cycle. And then slowly go into external rotation. Now the next thing we're going to do is slide out a little bit. How far your butt is away from the wall is going to depend, because I want your feet on the wall with a little bit of hip flexion. Because as we slide out, those hips are going to start to extend. So now what I'm going to do is feet against the wall, ball between my knees. With a little bit of core engagement, I'm going to slowly slide those knees out. I'm going to scoot away a little bit. Slowly slide out, squeeze that ball, and then come back into neutral. Slide out, squeeze that ball, slowly slide back into neutral. Keeping a little pressure on this ball the whole time. I'm not trying to pop it, but I got a little bit of pressure coming out to internal rotation, and I'm going to go about 10 to 15 reps of this. Holding again for a full breath cycle, inhale, exhale. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up now on my feet, and I'm going to start trying to integrate some internal rotation in a standing position. I got a little sliding disc here. Now what I'm going to do with this sliding disc is I'm simply going to put equal weight from one side to the other. I'm going to try and turn my hip in. I'm going to use a broomstick here to kind of drive down. And as I drive down, all that's doing is engaging my core to kind of keep my pelvis from moving, locking everything in, hold internal rotation, keep a nice, good activated core, and then come out to a slight external. Again, internal, slight external. I'm going to obviously do that on both sides. Again, working that motion for 10 to 15 reps or up to a minute on both sides. Now I'm going to do something called airplane now. So what we're going to do now with hip flexion, just like this on this lead leg, with hip flexion, I'm going to slowly rotate into that hip and come back out. And if I need to work the motion of the hip hinge, I'll reset each time. Turning in, coming back out. Now what you'll see is as I turn in, I'm really trying to prevent my knee from shaking, so I'm getting a nice good rooting strategy with the foot to assist the hip. Because if our foot's unstable and our knee's shaking everywhere because of that instability, the hip's going to lock down and we're not going to really be able to maintain that increased range of motion. So that's going to be called kind of a modified airplane here. Come back, and so from the side, it looks kind of like a single leg deadlift position, but now continuing to stay on this axis, meaning I'm not going to come up and rotate like that. Keeping that forward lean, I'm going to rotate in that hip. Again, trying to get a little bit further each time. Now, the last thing I'm going to do for the loaded hip internal rotation is I'm going to get rid of the slider. I'm going to put weight overhead. And this overhead weight right here, I'm going to pivot around this leg. So now we just got internal rotation with hip flexion. And now holding weight overhead is just going to challenge the stability a little bit. If you need to start here, you can start here. But all we're going to do is we're going to walk like we're pivoting to take a step this way. This foot's going to stay planted. And we're going to walk out with as much internal rotation as comfortable in this hip. And we're going to do about 15 to 20 of these little pivots. Each time you do that, you can get a little bit further with your stride, or a little bit more kind of towards this on a clock face, if I'm standing here, towards this 9-degree angle here. But that's kind of that just kind of step across. As I do that, that hip's going into extension, and I'm getting internal rotation there. So that will kind of, especially loading that pattern, if you have problems with the shoulder, like I said, you can get that kind of rack position. But that's going to be a great way to start integrating hip internal rotation into the gait pattern. And then it's just a matter of implementing that into other exercises, lunges, step-ups, stuff like that. But making sure that that's an active process is going to be much better off than just passively stretching into internal rotation. So if you have any questions with this video, again, you can always reach me at drdunaway@chirostrength.com. I'm pretty good about getting back to my emails within 24 to 48 hours. You can leave a comment below here, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at chirostrength. And if you have any questions, feel free to call 931-321-1414. And again, it's Dr. Dunaway with Chiro Strength saying, don't just mend, transcend. Thanks.